Today's lesson is 7-7, so it's chapter 7, lesson 7. Make sure at the top of your notes that you have 7-7 written at the top so that you have those labeled. Today we're going to add and subtract polynomials, and there are 10 examples. Make sure that you don't write this part down. It says pencils down, watch and listen. With adding and subtracting polynomials, basically it's just combining like terms. We have two x squared pieces here, 4 negative unit pieces for minus 4, 3 positive x pieces for plus 3. It says x squared and x are not like terms. Then we have 6 positive unit pieces for plus 6 and 2 negative x pieces for minus 2x. And basically our 0 pairs here are going to cancel. So we're going to circle all the 0 pairs that we find, meaning that it's the same shape and one's a positive and one's a negative. So those are going to cancel, and what's left is our answer here. We have 2 x squared pieces, 1 positive x piece, and 2 positive unit pieces. So 2x squared plus x plus 2. Here we're going to look at the same problem algebraically.
We want them to write this down.
So go ahead and write this one down. It says 3x squared minus 4 minus 3x plus 6 plus 5x.
Don't draw the algebra tiles.
And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and add the opposite, and I would really encourage you to add the opposite with adding and subtracting polynomials. It'll help you with your signs. So here we're going to look at this first term, and it's 3x squared. There are no other x squared pieces. And here we went ahead and identified the like terms. The x squared is in green, the x pieces are in red, and the unit pieces are in blue. So there are no other x squared pieces. So we're going to write 3x squared, and then we're going to put our x pieces together because those are alike. So negative 3x plus 5x is 2x. And then we're going to put our negative 4 plus 6 together, and we get plus 2. So 3x squared plus 2x plus 2. Again, make sure you write these in descending order. We talked about descending order yesterday, making sure that the exponents go from highest to lowest. So we have 2 here. There's a 1 here if nothing's there, and then just the number itself with no x. So make sure it's in that order, and make sure you have this work copied except for the algebra tiles before you move on. All right, go ahead and write down number 2. It says 4m squared plus 5 in parentheses plus m squared minus m plus 6 in parentheses. Adding polynomials is pretty simple. Adding polynomials is pretty much just combining like terms. When we get to subtracting, subtracting is a little bit different. Okay, but for adding, we're basically just going to remove the parentheses. We're going to make all of our minus. We're going to add the opposite there. So here, instead of minus m, we've said plus negative 1m. And we also went ahead and put 1s in front of anything that didn't have a coefficient or a number in front. So we put a 1 in front of this m squared, and we changed this to plus a negative 1m. So now we're basically just going to go through and combine our like terms. We're going to identify them first. This time we've circled the m squared pieces. Those are alike. And we have put little clouds around the 5 and the 6 to show that they are alike. And then we have a negative 1m, and that's the only m that we have. So we're going to combine like terms and write them in descending order. So 4m squared plus 1m squared. And here I know that it's plus 1 because of the sign in front. So whatever the sign in front is goes with it. So 4m squared plus 1m squared is 5m squared. Then I'm going to write my minus or plus negative 1m because there's nothing to put with that m. So I'm just going to bring it down. And then I'm going to put my positive 5 plus 6 together and get plus 11. Clean this up just a little bit by making the plus negative into a minus and taking away the 1 in front since I don't actually need it. So 5m squared minus m plus 11 is your final answer. You do not have to write the words in blue over here. Just make sure you have the work written down for this problem before you move on. It says, remember, like terms are constants or terms with the same variables raised to the same power. So in order to put something together, it has to be the same letter with the same power attached to it. All right, go ahead and write down number 3. we've got parentheses 10xy plus x, parentheses plus, parentheses negative 3xy plus y, close parentheses. So again here, since it's adding, we can just go ahead and remove those parentheses and combine our like terms. Here are like terms. We can put the xy's together because again they have exactly the same letters and exactly the same exponents, both x to the 1 and y to the 1, x to the 1, y to the 1. So those are like terms. They're both xy terms. Then I have a plus x and a plus y, and I don't have anything that I can put with those because again I just have one of them. I also went ahead and changed the minus 3xy to plus negative 3xy. And if I were you, I might want to go ahead and put a 1 in front of the x and 1 in front of the y as well. We're going to combine our like terms. So we're going to say 10xy plus negative 3xy is 7xy. Then bring down our plus x and our plus y. This has two different variables, so we can't really necessarily put those in descending order. So make sure you have that copied down before you move on. So 7xy plus x plus y.
I'd like to do number 4 on the paper, if that's okay with you.
All right. Hold on just a second. We are going to do this one on paper.
Okay, take a look at number 4. Go ahead and get this copied down on your paper. It's open parentheses 5a to the third plus 3a squared minus 6a plus 12a squared, close parentheses, plus open parentheses 7a to the third minus 10a, close parentheses. You're welcome to go ahead and pause the video now and try this one on your own, just combining like terms and adding. Okay, hopefully you've tried this one on your own. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through it and see if we came to the same answer. First thing I'm going to do, because I'm adding here, is just go ahead and drop my parentheses. So I'm going to say 5a to the third plus 3a squared minus 6a plus 12a squared plus 7a to the third minus 10a. Okay? Now, I'm going to also go back in and add the opposite. So where I have a minus 6a, I'm going to change it to plus a negative 6a, and I'm going to do the same thing with my 10 here at the end. Now, I'm going to look for my like terms. The first thing, because I'm going to list my answer in descending order, the first thing that I'm going to do is go through here and pull out all of my a cubes, or my a to the thirds. So that's a 5 and a 7. Now let me tell you, instead of getting confused here and trying to bring it down like we do when we're trying to solve an equation, I encourage you to avoid making simple mistakes and just type these into your calculator. I mean, it may not be something as simple as 5 plus 7, but I just want you to be aware that there's absolutely no shame in plugging it into your calculator. Some of the most frequent mistakes we make are simple addition or subtraction mistakes. Because you do it in your head and it's just too much coming at you at once to get it all right. So 5 plus 7 gives me 12, so I'm going to say 12a to the third. All right? The next thing I have is my a squared. So I have a 3a squared and a 12a squared. They both have plus signs in front of them, so it's 3 plus 12. So that's going to give me a positive 15, and to show that it's positive, I'm going to put a plus sign in front of it. Now I have my a's. I have a negative 6a and a negative 10a. So I'm going to say negative 6 plus negative 10, because they're both negative. That gives me negative 16. So I'm going to write that by saying minus 16a. And that's everything in my problem. I've used all of my terms, so that should be my final answer. And it's already listed in descending order because I started and worked it out in that order. So this is your final answer. Make sure that you got that down before you move on.
All right, we're going to move from adding to subtracting now, and it says to subtract polynomials. Remember that subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So to subtract, we're going to distribute a negative 1. And I'm going to show you using the PowerPoint one way to do this, and then on a couple of the other examples, Ms. Hilden's going to show you a little bit of a different way to do the same thing. Again, use whichever way you like the best. We just want to make sure that you have two different ways of looking at this. So first it says, pencils down, watch and listen. We have 5 minus, parentheses, 3x minus 7. Here, I'm not going to distribute the 5 because the 5 isn't right next to the parentheses. I need to distribute that negative. So I'm just going to call that a -1, and I'm going to distribute the -1. Since there's no number right directly in front of the parentheses, I'm just going to go ahead and again write that 1 there and distribute that as a -1. So I'm going to say 5 plus -1, parentheses, 3x plus -7. And I went ahead and turned the -7 into a plus negative as well. I promise, especially with this lesson, if you'll add the opposite, it will keep you from making simple sign errors when you're adding and subtracting, or when you're multiplying or dividing here. So we're going to distribute that -1, and we're going to say -1 times 3x is -3x, and -1 times -7 is a +7. So 5x plus -3x, or sorry, 5 plus -3x plus 7. And then we can put the 5 and the 7 together because they're like terms. And I put 5 and 7 together and get 12. So I list these in descending order with the x first and say -3x plus 12. All right, go ahead now and write down number 5. Again, we're going to use the same technique for number 5 as we did for the other one that you didn't have to write down. We're going to add the opposite and multiply by a -1.
I'm going to draw the arrows here.
Okay.
And keep talking.
All right, so again, instead of minus, I went ahead and put plus -1 there in the middle. I'm going to drop the first set of parentheses because there's nothing in front of that for me to distribute. But then I'm going to distribute into the second parenthesis the -1. And go ahead and make sure you're drawing your arrows, just like we've done here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 in front of the x to the third plus 4y. And again, all I did with that first set is drop the parentheses. And I'm going to distribute the -1 and say -1 times 2x to the third is -2x to the third. So I'm going to write that as plus -2x to the third. And then I'm going to say -1 times 1y is -1y. So I put plus -1y. So I've distributed this -1, and I've said -1 times 2x to the third and -1 times 1y. And I've got plus -2x to the third plus -1y. Now I'm going to put together my like terms. And from here, it's just like it was when we were adding. We're just going to identify the like terms. I have x to the thirds that I can put together, and then I have y's that I can put together. So for the x to the thirds, I'm going to say 1 plus -2. And I get -1x to the third, or just -x to the third. And then I'm going to put the y's together and say 4 plus -1, which is 3, so 3y. So my final answer is -x to the third plus 3y. Make sure you have all of that written down before you move on. Sorry about that. All right, now Ms. Filden's going to show you on paper a little bit of a different way of looking at this.
All right, go ahead and write down number 6 for me. It's open parentheses 7m to the 4th minus 2m squared, close parentheses. You have a minus sign in between them, and then you have open parentheses 5m to the 4th minus 5m squared plus 8. Okay, here's the deal. We showed you that when you have subtraction, that it's the same thing as distributing a -1 to everything inside the parentheses. The bottom line is that the way this works in my head is that when I distribute a -1, all it does is change this sign and all of the signs after it. So that's what I want you to do. If you can remember it this way, I think this is easier than having to distribute a -1. If you can't remember it this way, then you're going to need to distribute a -1. Again, we're showing you both ways, and it's up to you which way you choose to do it, but you have to pick one of the two ways. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down, just like I did with my addition, I'm going to bring down the first set of parentheses, and it's fine like it is. We don't have to change a thing. So it's 7m to the 4th minus 2m squared. Done. Now, I'm going to bring down this minus sign, but instead I'm going to make it a plus sign. This is a positive 5m to the 4th, so now it is negative. This is a negative 5m squared, so now it is positive. This is a positive 8, so now it's negative. And all I did was change the signs of every number in the second set of parentheses when I made this a plus sign. And that's all there is to it. So now it's just like those addition problems, and all I'm doing is combining my like terms. So I'm going to take my my 7m to the fourth and my negative 5m to the fourth. And again, I'm going to type in my calculator. 7, I can either say minus 5 or plus a negative 5. Either way, I'm going to get the same answer. That gives me 2. So I'm going to say 2m to the fourth. Now I'm going to look at my m squareds. I have negative 2m squared. I can add the opposite and say it's plus a negative. And I'll do the same thing here while I'm at it. And then I have this negative 2m squared and this positive 5. So I'm going to say negative 2 plus 5, 3. That's a positive 3, so I'm going to put a plus sign in front of it, 3m squared. Now I have my negative 8. It's the only one of my units. So I'm going to say minus 8. And it's already listed in descending order because that's the order that I worked it in. So get that copied down before you move on. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 7. Number 7 says negative 10x squared minus 3x plus 7, close parentheses, minus, open parentheses, x squared minus 9, close parentheses. All right. Again, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to bring down my first set of parentheses, and I'm going to say negative 10x squared minus 3x plus 7. Nothing changes there at all. Now, because I have a minus sign, I have to change it to a plus sign, and I have to change every sign in the parentheses after that. So it is now minus x squared plus 9. This changed to positive, this changed to negative. I'm also going to put a 1 in front of my x squared, just so I know that I'm actually subtracting a 1 there. All right, so now I'm going to combine my like terms, and again, I'm going to work in descending order. I have a negative 10x squared and a negative 1x squared. So I'm simply going to say negative 10 minus 1. That's negative 11. Negative 11x squared. Now I have a negative 3x, and that's all I have there. So I can just bring down my negative 3x because I don't have any like terms. I have a 7 and a 9. So I'm just going to say 7 plus 9, and that's going to give me 16. It's positive, so I put a plus sign in front of it, and that should be my final answer. Make sure that you have that down before you move on. It's negative 11x squared minus 3x plus 16. All right, I'm going to write down number 8 for you, and then I'm going to have you go ahead and try it on your own after you pause the video. It's 2x squared minus 3x squared plus 1, close parentheses, minus, open parentheses, x squared plus x plus 1. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. All right, hopefully you've taken a minute to try this one on your own. I'm going to go ahead and work it out for you and see if we came to the same conclusion. Again, my first set of parentheses, I'm not messing with that. I'm just going to bring it straight down. 2x squared minus 3x squared plus 1. Now, I have to take my negative sign, a minus sign, and make it a plus sign. I have to change the sign of everything in my second set of parentheses. So instead of it being a positive x squared, it's now going to be negative x squared. Instead of it being a positive x, it's now negative x. Instead of it being a plus 1, it's now minus 1. I'm also going to go back and put my 1s in front of my x's. I'm not going to add the opposite any further on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and work it out. Hopefully you've already done it on your own, and if you added the opposite, that's great. Again, I'm going to list my answer in descending order, and I'm going to say x 2x squared minus 3x squared. So I'm going to type that into the calculator. 2 minus 3. That gives me negative 1x squared. Now, oh, I missed one. I have another one, and that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and subtract it now. So I have a negative 1x squared, and then I have another negative 1x squared. So I'm going to say negative 1 minus 1. That's going to give me negative 2x squared. So I'm going to just change this. Forgive me for missing that one. I'm sure it's not a mistake that any of you will ever make. All right, negative 2x squared. Now, look at my x's. I only have one x, and it's just a negative 1x, so I'm just going to say minus 1x. Now, I have a 1 and a negative 1. Hopefully, I know by now that 1 minus 1 is, in fact, 0. And because it equals 0, I don't have to write it. I can show that I've calculated it by just marking it out because they do cancel. And I'm left with a final answer of negative 2x squared minus 1x, which could also be written negative 2x squared minus x. And that's how it should be written for your final answer. Make sure that you have that down before you move on.
All right, number 9 says which is not equivalent to negative 5x squared plus x. And this one is multiple choice. Okay, I want you to go ahead and write it down. Write down your options. And I want you to go ahead and try this one. See if you can figure out whether it's A, B, C, or D that is not equivalent. And not equivalent just means which one is not the same. When I work out A, and when I work out B, and when I work out C, and when I work out D, which one does not give me negative 5x squared plus x? So go ahead again, write it down. Write down all your options. And then try to work this one and figure out which one you don't think is equivalent. Okay. When you're finished, you're going to bring this with you tomorrow to class, and we're going to talk about which one is not equivalent and why it's not equivalent.
So you should have all of this work, and you should have your answer choice, whether it be A, B, C, or D, which one does not equal negative 5x squared plus x. And again, we're going to check this tomorrow with your notes, so this is not optional. This is the last problem for you to do, and we won't review it until tomorrow. This is the end of your video. Thank you for watching.